Let's kick it off, Eric. A little late in the week, but I'm pretty sure most of the viewers understand why we're doing this so late. Not just because of the race on Monday, but Chase Elliott.
Yep.
Big Chase Elliott news, huh? How about Chase Elliott? What's up with Chase?
Yeah. Good thing there would have been nothing for us to go over odds wise. Anyways, Tuesday, nothing was out, and then the news of Chase Elliott and then Chase Briscoe. So all that kind of came down. So good thing we obviously we had moved back because there's no odds to talk about, but it all worked out. So we're the big things happened behind us. Chase Elliott suspended a race, which I felt NASCAR had to do.
Yeah, sure.
The precedent was already there. If they didn't suspend Bubba Wallace last year for the incident with Kyle Larson, then I could see. But he kind of similar instances, so you kind of had to suspend him. And then the Chase Briscoe news. Just a flat out cheating. There's no way around it. That was flat out cheating.
That's crazy.
So not a good week. I saw somebody post, not a good week for chases this week. And no, it's not. 2 days in a row. But both are calls NASCAR had to make. I just think it's funny these teams complain, save us from ourselves, stock parts, keep us from spending all this money. And Stuart Haas literally manipulated a part. They took a stock part, manipulated it. From what I heard, made it specifications, the writing on it, everything you need to have for this part, and faked it. Completely faked it. And the funny thing is they only finished 20th with the fake part. But I think it's key that the garage knows these things. There's not a lot of secrets you can keep in a NASCAR garage because one team's noticed it. There's chatter that he was the random car taken and they found it. So I don't think it just was a coincidence that he was the car taken. I think NASCAR kind of suspected maybe somebody tipped him off. Because what about a 20th place finish of Chase Briscoe?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's the car we're taking back with us.
Well, this is another reason why I'm not really we've talked about this before, having Tony Stewart in the booth.
Yeah.
Because, look, if Tony Stewart, next time he's in the booth, if he needs to talk about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we don't want him in the booth anymore.
Yeah, it's fair. And I would hope Clint Bowyer would address it Sunday. That's his former car. That's the car he stepped out of. That was his former. I think he might have worked with that crew chief too when he was there, and so I feel like he should talk about it. It's something you can't hide. Blatant cheating, and interesting take I heard was Ford's. It's no secret. We've been talking about it the last month. Have been down in seems like power and handling, and they've got one win all season. Was this a desperation move to try something out? They just got caught. Couple different layers there, so I feel like that's a huge storyline. And then Chase Elliott, as we kept saying, he's going to eventually probably need to win a race, and now you took yourself out of winning the 600 by that move, so you took yourself there from winning, and you're going to take yourself out of this week. So now you're down to 11 races left to get a win. Granted, I'm not saying he was going to come out and win Sunday and Gateway.
Yeah, but again, as we talked about, it's not about just getting in. He's losing all of any opportunity to accumulate some sort of points.
Yep, points, playoff points. It's just a race. It's a zero. I think it's kind of making a mockery of this waiver system because now he's got to get another waiver. He's already got the medical waiver, but now he's got to go get another waiver. And if NASCAR grants it, which we know they will, because they always do, what's the point of this waiver? Everybody gets one. Right. But granted, it was made so guys don't win and skip races. I get that. But, he should have done what he did. Stuart Haas should have done what they've done because now you've got Elliott, Chase Briscoe, and even Austin Dillon. Remember, he was penalized a month or so ago. You got 3 drivers now that all won races last year that with 12 weeks left, 11 for Chase, as far as races for the regular season, they've got to win. That's 30% of the races left. These guys have to win, or they're probably not going to, well, not probably, they won't be into the playoffs this season.
I don't understand. Why did you put more money on Chase this week? On your
I
futures?
feel like he's still going to make the playoffs. He's still sitting there.
Yeah, but we're talking championship.
I do. I think it would be, I still think he can win this championship. And while he's just going to stay there,
8-1 though. It's not like he's 15-1 or 12. He's 8-1. He's one of the favorites still, right after Larson.
That's why, because I'm afraid he's going to win and going to go to 4-1. So I'm just trying to get him now because I got to make up some ground on him. Because he's 1 win away from that happening, I feel. Because they're basically saying they're going to, if he's those odds now without winning.
That's crazy. I don't understand that.
That's why. Because I still think it'd be, like I said, when he came back to make the playoffs, Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch, injuries, missed races, ended up winning the championships. So I'd be curious what he can do with that. So we know he's got a good car. He's good at Phoenix.
Yeah, no question. It's just I'd be a little bit more, and it's strange to say it because you would think, well, you would think a championship driver would be more inclined where you'd feel more confident because he's been there and he's done that. But I just think with the parity today in NASCAR that to expect Chase to go through all of what he's going through and then win a second championship, that's where I just think the odds are just too high. It
would be, yeah.
If he had not won a championship, I'd feel different.
Yeah, and plus you look, I just like Hendrick still at the top of the game this year. That's why I gave him
absolutely, yeah.
And his finishes, this is where it'd be curious when he comes back. Was it 5 straight weeks? I don't have it sitting right in front of me, but he improved his finish every week.
Oh, you mean before the race, before the Coke 600?
Coke 600, yeah. Yep. I mean, he was third the week. I mean, just kept improving.
5 straight races.
He was getting there, and then now you're out of the car. So that momentum, what's that do to that? What does he come back next week? It's granted Sonoma. We know how good he is on road courses, but he's also never won at Sonoma before either.
But what does he have? He has three more road courses?
Yeah, Sonoma, Indy, Watkins.
Yeah, so I mean...
Or no, 4 if you want to count the street course in Chicago.
Yeah, he's going to have... Again, I don't think it's about getting into the playoffs. I think it's about once he's in, how can he do it? Because what he's going to have to do is almost win every round.
He's going to be behind. Yeah, he's going to have to probably he's not going to be able to point his way in.
No.
I mean, same with Briscoe. Briscoe is going to, I mean, even if he wins and gets in the playoff, a 25-point playoff point penalty.
Yeah, it's over.
That's 5 race wins.
Yeah.
He's going to have to win 5 times to even get to 0.
Yeah.
And he's only won 1 career win. So
his odds should have jumped. His odds should have doubled this week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's always a shot, right? But
there's no way should his odds be better than Bubba Wallace's.
Absolutely not. Bubba's with all those top 5s in a row. And we're talking about to win a championship. So in order to get there, Bubba can point his way there. I mean, he doesn't have to win a race. We've seen guys can get there as long as he's a top point getter, which granted it'd be tougher to do where he's at in the standings, but he can do it. Briscoe's not going to do it. He's got to win races because every round of the playoffs that he moves on, he's down to the negative playoff points still. It's going to take him way back. So you're just asking a lot. I feel like Briscoe should be like 200-1 right now.
Yeah.
I don't. There's no reason why he's not. I mean, it's just like, what do you expect? The dude's got one career win, and you think he's just going to run the table in the playoffs?
And last year, all I have to do is take a look at what he did last year at the same tracks. He did nothing. That's not when he was at his best. So
no.
He
was at his best. He was good in the playoffs.
Yes,
but he wasn't winning races still. And even that, if he does the exact same, let's just say he wins. Let's say he wins Sunday. I don't think he will, but let's say he wins Sunday and he does the exact same thing he did in the playoffs last year. He'll be eliminated in the first round.
There you go.
Because he's got so many playoff points that he's behind. You're never going to make up. It's just not going to happen. So that's the problem with penalties these days, and that's
what they're
kind
for.
of
Wake them up.
NASCAR said, so it's funny because it's kind of taking care of itself. I mean, you got 3 drivers now that have to win, and then you look at the guys outside that also are kind of having to win. You know, they're probably not. So it's kind of all this is kind of taking care of itself and kind of getting a smaller sample size of who we got left here.
Well, look, that's the reason why on my fantasy team I had to ditch him. Now, it wasn't easy because it's not like there's a lot to choose from since we added an extra driver this year. Yep. But I had Eric Jones when the season began. I know things aren't going well, but if you take a look at how he did at the same time last year, the only difference from where he was last year and this year is I think he had like one extra top 10 and two extra top 15s. That's not a big difference, and he actually did well from this point on last year. So I figured, why not? Maybe it'll happen again. Maybe he'll get going again. And I just rather take a chance with almost anybody like Eric Jones than even think that Chase Briscoe is going to, not only it's about having a playoff driver, of course, would be nice, but again, just taking a look at the races from last year, why would I believe Chase Briscoe would win a race?
Yeah, and I'd be curious the stat too. It'd be tough to look in. I mean, it would be tough. It would take a long time. But the other factor of this, right, is, Chase Briscoe just got caught cheating. They just caught manipulating the parts.
Yes.
NASCAR has their eye on them now.
And he doesn't have a crew chief for what? 6 races?
6 weeks. Yeah.
He doesn't have his crew chief for 6 weeks. The whole team is going to be like, and like you said, they're going to be looked at. There's going to be nervousness. They're not going to be on their game. And it's not like he was doing anything the last several weeks. He had that one spot of 3 straight top 5s where it looked like he was coming on, and then it all disappeared.
Yep. And most of these cars, the big teams, they're pushing the boundaries of this rule book. Briscoe can't. Like I said, they're being watched.
That's right.
So it's not like they're going to be able to do that moving forward.
Yeah.
So, no reason to take them, I feel, just because of that. So.
Well, speaking of fantasy, finally, after you started the year with the big triple points Daytona 500 week, you could have really circled the field if you would have won this week with 2 bonus point victories. But instead, I was able to catch up. I couldn't even believe how quickly I caught up, to tell you the truth.
Double points. Yep.
Double points does it.
Yep. And this is the first week my guys basically did nothing. And you got some good finishers. So double points and that, plus my guys not really being up front. Yeah.
CJ was the one that had the other good week.
Yes.
Yeah. So he even needed that too. So we basically saved our season catching up the standings, and that's because TJ had Byron in second, Truex in third, and I had Blaney in first, Reddick in fifth, and you had Wallace in fourth as your only top 10 driver. And look, I said it a week or 2 ago. I put money on Wallace at 100-1, and he's now down to 60-1. I know it would be a really crazy thing to think about, Bubba Wallace winning a championship. But he should never have been 100-1. And to tell you the truth, I think if he has a good week this week, and let alone if he wins a race, especially like this week, those odds will go down to about 15-1.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you kind of have to look at him now. I mean, you look at how he's running. Don't you kind of have to put him with Tyler Reddick, his teammate? I mean, he's running better than Reddick most weeks. Reddick's got the win, and I feel like people have that name recognition with him because he won an Xfinity championship. He won 3 races last year. But Bubba's running just as good right now, if not better. I mean, you count the All-Star race.
That's the thing.
That's the key. That's the key. Can he keep it? And finds it. He's going to have to win eventually.
Yes.
I feel like the way the season's gone, he's going to have to win.
Yes.
I feel like if he wins a non-super speedway, I mean, Atlanta's coming up next month.
Atlanta.
He's won it, Kansas.
Yeah, but remember, he's actually had a couple of good results this season at tracks that he hasn't had prior results at.
Yes. If he could win at a track like that, I think is a huge statement. That's where I'm kind of getting to. He's got the 1.5 mile win out of his way. If he can win on granted, he's not good on these tracks. We know they're kind of fluky road courses or a non-super speedway. Or really 1.5 miles. Like, he just wins at Gateway. He wins at Michigan. I mean, he just wins so. It's like, doesn't that kind of prove the point? Like, okay, he is here. He is for real. He's got all these top 5s. He's not winning on just because it used to be is like, oh, it's a super speedway. We know he's good there, but he's not good anywhere else. Now he's finally starting to enter that conversation.
Yep.
Same thing with your boy Blaney. There's certain tracks we always say, hey, he's not good there. He's never has been good there. Charlotte was kind of one of them.
Yep.
I mean, then he goes out and wins. Dover was that way. Darlington, he's kind of turning that tide.
Yes.
So they're making a statement. I feel like with their doing more on races that or tracks that they're typically not good at, and they're getting top tens. I think makes a more statement than finishing like seventh at somewhere they are good at.
And speaking of Blaney, look, if we have a soundbite, if I find one, I'll play it. I am going to use Blaney for sure. I'm trying to take advantage of the number. And I'm also looking at the fact, okay, I think what will happen is you got the Ford, and that's what people are looking at. But Blaney, if we're talking about experienced drivers here now, in his last 7, he's got 3 top 10s and 2 top 5s. So that leads me to believe that he's at the point now where he's got the experience at this track, and he's also been racing better at some of the tracks that he hasn't necessarily had good resumes at recently. Not top 5s, but hanging around top 10s. That's all you do at tracks that you don't have good experience. Give me a 10th, give me a 12th, give me an 8th. That's fine. That's what he's been doing lately. And even if you take a look at his Xfinity Series record, 4 top 10s, 3 top 5s, and a win in 6 of those races, led 161 laps. In his last 2 Xfinity Series races, he finished 3rd and 1st, leading a combined 145. So I just look at this as a perfect opportunity with a driver right now that has 4 top 10s in his last 5 with 2 top 5s and a runner-up to take advantage of that big number and to say, you know what? Yeah, I think if another Ford can do it, I could see Blaney bucking that trend on Sunday.
Yeah, he's a better play of the two because, like you said, he had a pair of third-place finishes in 2020. Granted, maybe only top 5 finishes in 12 oval starts there, but he was still 3rd. And you look at Logano in this race, his last 10 Charlotte Oval starts, 21st, 22nd, 2nd, 13th, 17th, and 20th in his last 6 Coke 600 tries. I just don't feel like he's shown enough on a non-super speedway track to merit taking him still. So Blaney's definitely the way to play. Oddly enough, you would think, so Roger Penske's got 18 Indy 500 wins. So you think of the Indy 500, you think Roger Penske. You know he's never swept Memorial Day weekend in the same year.
Okay.
It seems weird. So since 1974, the 500, Indy 500, and the Coke 600 were held on the same day. That was the first year that started. And Penske, despite 18 Indy 500 wins, or 17 in that time frame because he won 72 out here. So 17 of his 18 wins have come since this. He's never won the Coke 600 in the same day. And he's only won the Coke 600 twice, 2010 and 2020. So do we line him up this year? We'll see. I think Blaney could, if Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, Scott McLaughlin win the Indy 500, Blaney's probably your best shot.
We went over the strategy last week, and I never felt so, because I'm not, you're the expert here on this channel. You're the motorsports expert. And anytime that I can feel like I'm contributing, it feels really good. And I felt that way. Even if Blaney didn't win, I already felt like I kind of hit the mark the way it was going, because it did look like in that final 100 laps or so that it was going to cost him, especially after he had that one issue coming out wherever he was, 4th or something, and was 5th until another caution came out and saved him kind of. But yeah, that was, because remember, the whole idea that we talked about, and this is not something we've ever talked about or brought up, but and I got very lucky maybe because I caught something, which was as we went over last week, for whatever reason, you have to have experience at the track. And if you looked at Blaney and he just got away from well, yeah, but he's not really good here. Look at his stats. Yes, but look at how his stats have been the last few years. Look at the fact that he won an Xfinity Series on this track. So it's not one of these tracks where he's won top 10 out of 15, and he had something going, and you can kind of tell. But the trick was he wasn't 12-1. He was 22-1. And like you had just brought up, he was showing at other tracks that he didn't have a lot of great history at. That, you know what? It didn't matter. He was doing better this year. It's also showing something. And then of course, we know that anything can happen nowadays. I didn't expect him to, in a way, dominate the way that he did. That was the surprising thing. When Clint Bowyer, and I think he corrected himself, but initially he kind of said something along the lines of, like Blaney, I don't know if he said something like Blaney's probably the better car today or something, but he didn't really, instead of just coming out and saying what everybody was watching, which was Ryan Blaney is clearly the best driver here today. There's no doubt, there's no question. And that is something we have not really seen, especially for Blaney at a track or for Ford, where we haven't seen that much success from lately.
Yeah, I mean, usually you watch, and I was thinking it at the end, like, all right, what's going to go wrong here now? It just seemed like there's always something. Byron's he's gonna steal this in the end. We've seen this before. And it didn't happen. Blaney just, like they kept saying, just focus forward, don't overthink it looking behind you. And it just seemed like that's what he did.
All those restarts, it was like, I'm rooting for him and I want him to win. All I knew was as long as he was side by side, or as long as he was first or second, he was gonna be in front. There was no doubt about that. The only time that, as I mentioned before, that it almost worked against him was, I forget what caution it was. He came out fourth. He ended up fifth. That was going on for a few laps. And I remember for about a second, it was Byron and Larson. And I was like, oh no, you've got to be kidding me.
Yep.
Hendrick, Byron, and Larson, they're going to end up winning this race first and second. And that's just where, and then there was a caution, and that caution changed everything.
It did.
Because that put Blaney back where he needed to be. And for the first time in 2 years, kudos to Ryan Blaney's pit crew.
Yep.
What a great job they did keeping him within most of the time, keeping him, first, second, or third?
Yeah, he was always exiting, we'll say top 2 rows restart range. He was always right there. Felt like he was there all day. It literally felt like he was always the top 4, which is good for them, because usually that doesn't happen with him. He'll come in that way and he'll be hit there further out.
They had to take advantage of that. They had to. But Wallen Byron's crew, what an amazing job. And that is definitely, you got to all of a sudden think, as we're thinking championship now, you got to think, wow, what an advantage that's going to be for William Byron to have a pit crew going like that.
Especially if he gets that, like we talked about Phoenix, that number 1 pit stall. If he starts on the pole, he gets that number 1 pit stall in November.
Game over.
He's there. Yeah, it's just like Logano's guys did last year. It's pretty much game over. You might as well just, there's your favorite. It would take something catastrophic at that point to keep him out of it, because he's always going to exit the pits first. Because we all know it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 championship 4 guys for most of that race. So you get pit stops unless, again, it take catastrophic, something unforeseen. If they just do what they just did, they're going to be untouchable.
Just taking a look at, let's see, some of our comments from last week. Oh, remember, we were wondering about the comments from Paul Moss about All Right X3.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, we were like, what is that? Not sure what that was. So he clarified for it. And he said, have you all not heard Matthew McConaughey say, all right, all right, all right? So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So now we know. And Thaunos, Thanos. I don't think that's how you spell Thanos in Marvel, but close enough. Maybe that was the intention. Talked about Goodyear. I think Goodyear also brought the same tire they ran at Phoenix, as you all said, but the reason that tire doesn't really wear correctly on the short track, low speeds, is because they are they're intermediate track tires. Goodyear was worried that the test from earlier this year, and this is something because we were talking about the tires last week, was on the short track tires. They wore too much, and Goodyear was worried about blowouts Because again, this is the All-Star race talk about the tires. So instead of tire wear and tires blowing out, you end up with a harder tire made for a lot more speed, which doesn't need to be blowing out at intermediate tracks. So he goes on and on about that. So, and look, it's a good explanation. But like I said last week, I just think, I don't think they could take the chance on it being a boring race. I'd rather the other way. Take a chance the opposite direction. And if you fail and it's a disaster, I just rather that than see what we saw at the All-Star race. So
yeah, and he's 100% right on all those. And the other factor is being an 18-inch tire. Bigger tire going in the turn. And just, that's all the short track package is what it is. I mean, you've got a bigger tire, wider tire. It's going to give you more grip, more room in the turns, and you're not going to lose it. I mean, you're just going to catch it with that tire catching you. So it's kind of hard to make mistakes or tires fall off when they're just as big as they are. So they got a lot of work for the short track package, that's for sure.
All right. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, and we've mentioned some of the other, well, we're not a motorsports channel. We're a sports channel. We have sports that I am the most familiar with, including motorsports. And so we reference motorsports channels on this channel, some that we feel do a good job. And I must say, this after the Checkered Flag channel, I'm a couple of things I don't really like about, and I'm not gonna say anything too much because I think he has 15,000 subscribers. And when you have a good subscriber base and it's making money for you, your style, hey, whatever makes you money, whatever you have to do, I get it. I haven't really appreciated, like, he'll say something in the promo and then I'll watch a video and like 90% of it is like the lead of the story. Like he's got to lead up to the story. Like, it's a 6-minute video and like, I got to wait like 4 or 5 minutes to get to the point of the video. It's like, just tell me the point. I don't need to watch, but I get why it's being done and more power to him. He's got more subscribers than I do. But this latest clip was really strange, especially for the NASCAR community. I can't imagine the NASCAR community would have appreciated this clip. I should probably take a look at the comments, and I haven't done that. I'll do that right now. Let's just take a quick look and listen about what I'm talking about. Here's a clip from just, I think this was just a few days ago. Is that what I said it was? I think it was just a few days ago. No, actually, it was 2 weeks ago. It came from right after the Darlington race. So, not sure why I just noticed this now, but let's just take a quick look.
When the cameras focused on the number 54 car of Ty Gibbs during his practice run, which was a throwback to Bobby Labonte and the Joe Gibbs racing car that featured the colors of the Washington team his grandfather coached to 3 Super Bowl titles and was sponsored by the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Clint Bowyer shared his feelings on the car.
Saturdays, man. So this is a cool one. I like this one a lot. Meaningful. Throwing back to Grandpa's Redskin days as a coach.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And Bobby Labonte ran this scheme for Joe Gibbs.
Commanders.
Oh, yeah, you can't say Redskins
you can't
anymore.
Say that.
Nope.
What
That's
was
right.
then?
Yeah.
That likely should have been the end of the conversation on the topic. Bowyer said the slur, immediately recognized it, and corrected it before Joy and Petty uncomfortably addressed the blunder. But it wasn't. Instead, things stayed awkward as Petty stumbled over himself for a few seconds before the 73-year-old veteran announcer made a surprising comment of his own on the subject.
Yeah. There's a 7-second delay. That guy, you can say whatever you want to. I think what's $6 billion? Are they selling it for? That's the offer on the table.
Wonder if the new owner will change the name again. I vote yes.
The changing of the Washington football team name has been a long, arduous process, and it only came after years of various groups expressing concerns about its offensive nature. The name was finally changed to Washington Commanders before the 2022 season. Bowyer's use of the word, while offensive, is understandable. It was an honest mistake.
Okay, so as you can tell, the whole idea was to talk about Joe Gibbs and the colors and the Redskins colors. And, did I say Redskins? I can't even believe that somebody, especially for NASCAR, would have a video like this and calling out Clint Bowyer and Petty and Joy for, the use of the word while offensive is understandable. And I think he said understandable because of Clint Bowyer, how goofy he can be. But while offensive, and then an honest mistake, and Petty made a bigger mistake. And these are the things, what are we talking about here? 90% of the people, and even if you want to go there, even the American Indians, the ones that you had a couple of groups, but you also had a couple of other groups that were fine with the Redskins label. It was that whole thing of a small percentage of people made it out to be this big thing, and Daniel Snyder had to change the name of the team because of a small percentage of people. And I'm even saying for the American Indians, the same thing. It wasn't 100% of them. It wasn't even 50% of them. It was like 20% of them had a problem with it. We got to change the name of this historic football team. And all right, whatever, it's behind us. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Fine. Then a video pops up like this, and we got somebody talking about how just because Clint Bowyer referenced the name Redskins, that's all he did. That's a problem.
Yeah, you're basically saying for decades. I don't know when the Redskins first appeared in the NFL. I know the name was around in the 2000s, and so you're saying every scoreboard, every commentator for all those games were basically, he's saying they were racist. So that makes absolutely
and if we say it
zero
now,
sense. Yeah, it's not.
I can't say they were the Redskins. I can't talk about the Redskins' great football dynasties because that would be racist for me to say such a thing.
Yeah, it's a football team. It's just like the local newspaper here, which it never gained traction, thankfully, because they were trying to get rid of the Indians name from our minor league baseball team, and that was offensive. And it's like Indians is their name, then you can't call your newspaper the Indianapolis Star because the Indians in it. Isn't that racist? Isn't the whole city and the whole state? Are you going to go that? How far back do you want to go with it? So it's just.
Again, I was just letting it go.
Yeah.
But if you want to bring it up and to criticize Clint Bowyer and their entire crew, because all he said was he just mentioned the name of the team.
That's all he did.
That's all he did. Because that's what they are.
Wrong.
They were the Washington Redskins. That is never going to change.
No, you can't change that for him. You can't say the Joey Gibbs coached Washington Commanders. That's not what it was. It's completely asinine. I can't believe the guy wasted his time making a video about it. It just tells you probably about that person.
And a NASCAR video.
Yeah, talk about NASCAR or just get out of this business. He's not even worth anybody. Clearly he's not relevant. I've never even heard of him, to be honest with you.
Let's see. I got some comments, some comments from it. So let's see. The one that got the most, looks like it got the most likes, wasn't a slur. It was the name of the football team that Joe Gibbs coached. During the race today, Mike Joy again made that clear. I don't think Shea Whitmire agreed with the host. The guy who runs the channel with that one.
I'm shocked the guy really went and made a video of it. Just baffling. He literally wasted his time to do a video.
I am Native American, and I do not consider Redskins being a slur. In fact, I'm pissed that they changed the name. Clint Bowyer did nothing wrong. 178 likes. Not a slur. I'm a retired football team name. It's a retired football team name. You can't erase the past. 53 likes. These are the top ones. I haven't even gone up. There's 563 comments. I get the feeling 500 of them all felt the same way.
Probably. It sounds like a grab by this person just to get views. clicks. It's all they're at. What do you call it? Clickbait?
Yeah.
That seems like that's basically what it was. And it worked for him.
Because he didn't say, because all he said was Clint Bird slur.
Yeah.
He didn't say Redskins slur. Because if maybe he says Redskins slur, maybe some people would have gotten it. And I don't need to watch that. But
Bingo.
slur, well, what did he say?
Yeah, did
he curse? Yeah. Did he let something out of the, so that's probably, again, that's why I was saying those promos to the videos is the thing that drives me crazy the most. And there are some good videos that he provides. The only thing I don't like about most of the videos, like I said, is that 90% of it, it's like, please just get to the point already. So.
Yeah, and I wish that if people like that hold these announcers and people accountable, then shouldn't he should be held accountable. Because that wasn't a slur. You did a clickbait and false. So he should be held. If you're going to hold them accountable, then you should be held accountable because that wasn't a slur. That wasn't a slur at all. That was a team name. There's a big difference. And then you could be trying to damage. Basically, if I was Clint Bowyer, I'm like, he wouldn't do it. But you know what? Take legal action against somebody like that. Because he's trying to come after basically his job.
Right.
You're basically trying to cancel him for saying a team name. Like that, he didn't do anything wrong. Clint Bowyer is completely innocent in this. And then this dude's trying to basically call him out. So this should go the other way. Like you titled that as a slur. That's not a slur as a team name. Big difference. So he should be held accountable to that.
Yeah. All right. So that was kind of interesting and a little funny. All right. So let's get on to this week. And once again, only one driver we all picked. And once again, it's because I'm continuing to stay away from the top drivers. You're going all in, Eric, even though things are not, you're in a little bit of a slump, but you're doubling down on the strategy of going down with the big boys.
I just have a feeling it just keeps thinking here soon that some of these guys up top are going to start rattling off more than, it's like we're kind of running out of winners. You just look at how the season's going, and yes, there's been a lot of parity, but some of those guys, when they're good. And eventually, you're just not going to keep seeing new winners every week. And it's just, this one was a tough one because of it's only the second year the Cup Series has been there.
Yep.
That's why, once again, I just kind of went with who's up top. They're there for a reason, and a couple of the sleepers that might be a little bit hot right now, and just left it as is to see if it's a weird one. And we have some weird races coming up, but this was one of them. It's like there's no rhyme or reason, so I might as well ride the favorites, and eventually one of them's going to hit.
Well, you can get right back into it because I sure have. Over the last 3 weeks, I hit Blaney for 330. I hit Byron for 270, and I hit Hamlin for 200. So that's that's obviously my best 3 weeks of the year. And I was able to move up now all the way to, minus 100 and change.
Yep.
So if I can do it, you can do it. It's just a matter of getting that first one so you can get on a roll. And because look, if Byron and Larson wind up winning like 3 of the next 4 races or 3 of the next 5 races, the problem though is unless you do what like Byron would have to be the one that would you basically need Byron to win based on your formula, because all Larson does is kind of give you a little bit money back, which is just not a way. It's not a form. Like even CJ, that's kind of been CJ's formula all along. CJ's doubled wins on me this year. Doubled.
Yep.
He's got 10. I got 5. He's only ahead of me by like $100.
That's why I went. You probably, like you said, Larson is if he wins, I don't lose. Everybody else is let's get some money on. That's exactly the strategy I used. Who's the guy that I want to go in? And it's like, all right, if he wins, because I don't want to neglect him and not pick him, and then I lose again. So who's the guy that I want to break even on, and let's win some money elsewhere. So that's kind of my strategy. You kind of like Larson was just the pick this week because he's such low odds. It's probably better to do that as the guy that's the low odds, so you can have more money left elsewhere.
Well, first of all, which driver do you think it is that we all agreed upon?
Bubba?
No.
Probably not one of these Hendrick guys. I'm looking. Is it in the Gibbs camp?
No.
Oh.
It's a contender.
So it's got to be on this list. Chastain?
No.
Who other contender I'm trying to think of? It's not a Hendrick, not a Gibbs.
It's one that you wouldn't really have ever guessed as a contender.
I
don't think we've probably all picked this driver together most of the year.
Is it Reddick?
No. You didn't even have Reddick.
No, that's what I was saying. I don't think I had him, but I'm kind of looking at this list to see who have I not. It's kind of a contender.
Yeah, it's not easy because, like I said, it's a big name.
Is it Kyle?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the only one. Yeah.
He's the top of my sleeper. I'm like, is it him? I mean, it had to be him in process of elimination after these guys.
And the funny thing is we all basically just picked him to get the money back.
Yep.
And yet he was really the best car last year. With the laps, and he really probably should have won.
Yep.
He got loose there at the end on the final restart. But you and I had 5 total of the same.
Okay. Yep.
And they were Truex, Wallace, Keselowski, and Buescher. So we all, and including Kyle. So those were our 5 that you and I picked together. So we start at the front, and see, I just don't like the fact that when we look at what happened last year, I just don't like the fact that Larson, again, I just keep saying this. If you look at his last 8 starts, 2 wins and a runner-up, and in his other 5, 20, 30, 32, 33, 35. I can't bet on a guy like that at 4-1 that you just don't know if he's going to be 30th or 1st or 2nd. I just think that's not 4-1 to me.
No, and it's tough because the closest comparison to that you use of this would be like a Darlington because they're kind of different shaped in, same size.
Yes.
Logano won the spring Darlington race last year. He won this race last year.
Go. Yes.
And I look at, he wasn't good. He was wrecked in Darlington, but he should have won.
No, yeah.
Well, Larson, if it wasn't for Chastain or that late race caution, Larson was going to win that. So I was like, well, I got to look at that, and that's why I went with him to kind of win the money back for that reason, because he probably should have won Darlington, but then I also feel like using that strategy, you're chasing money. I feel like because at the end of the day, he didn't win. Hendrick didn't have any cars in the top 10 at this track last year. He was their best finisher at 12th. So it feels like you're kind of chasing at that money, but I also didn't want to fall $100 further down. So that's the only reason. The only reason I went with him was just to get the money back.
I would probably, if he does not win this week, I'd probably rethink that strategy. I think sooner or later, because that's $30 that could be spent.
It is.
Three other drivers.
It's funny because I was looking ahead because with Sonoma next week, he didn't do great on the road courses last year, and he didn't look great at COTA. So with Sonoma coming up, if he's got all those poles in a row, 5 in a row or something there, he's probably going to be low odds. I'm punting on him. Unless something shows me this week, this is probably the last week of him being 4 to
1,
5, 6 to 1 range that I'm going to be chasing. But he was good at Darlington. He just got crashed out of his doing. We've seen what he can do when he stays out of trouble this year. So
sure.
We'll see.
I still feel better about Byron. I feel better about your Byron pick because of the fact that he won Darlington.
Exactly.
And his last 5 starts have all been very solid.
Yep.
So he's not inconsistent like Larson. And he's 6 to 1 instead of 4 to 1.
You're getting better. To me, if I had to pick the winner between those two, I'd go Byron anyways. Just of where he is on the season, the same trend, like you just said, like Logano, winning both Darlington Spring and this race last year. Byron just won Darlington Spring. It kind of goes hand in hand. I just feel like Chevy's got a better package this year even further. So he's a better pick over Byron, too.
All right.
Byron's a better pick over Larson, too, I should say.
Let's go over in the order of the playoffs, the standings. So Chase, 12-1, Blaney 12-1, first and second. Now, I like them both this week. Now, I know you guys didn't obviously take Blaney last week, so I can understand why you wouldn't take him this week, winning 2 weeks in a row. We've always talked about that. Very hard to do. For me, the fact that I took him last week makes it different. So I'm going to go back to him because you never want to take a driver. He wins. You don't take him, especially at a track where Blaney was 4th last year. And if we of course recall, lap 95, he was in the top 5 and tire goes down. And that was because he took a 2-tire stop. Apparently that was the wrong decision. Tire goes down. You know what? He still finishes 4th. So if he knows better, and he had a really solid car there. And I'm getting 12-1. If Chase Elliott wins last week and has this record last year, he's 5-1.
Yep.
6-1, but it's Ryan Blaney. So that's why I just feel, again, I'm getting good odds. So I'm going to roll the dice again with Blaney. Chastain finished 8th last year, led 93 laps at Darlington. And let's also recall that last year, that was a pretty strong 8th with all of the nuttiness that was going on with Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin, who just wanted to wreck the hell out of him and just ruin his day. So he doesn't have that in this race. And he still finished 8th. And let's remember, you were just talking about wins. Ross doesn't have a win yet. So if anybody's due for a win, it's Ross.
Exactly. He's probably the better play. It seems weird saying that with Blaney your stats, and you just said, and out of his last 6 points-paying races, 3 of them have been in the top 3.
Yep.
5 of them are in the top 10. And he was good there last year at Gateway. So it's like I struggled with him. If he went 59 races without a win,
yes,
can I really see him winning twice in 6 days? That's the only reason I didn't go with him. Because everything else, for 12-1, it's still a good number for him. Yeah. But like you said, Chastain, who was good in Darlington these last 2 years, he was good. Hamlin was trying to slow him up.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah.
So he doesn't have that, like you said, this year. And to keep that trend of new winners, you're getting double the odds as you would for somebody like Byron. But Hendrick didn't fare well there last year, where he did against all those circumstances, and you're getting double the odds. And he's the points leader, for crying out loud. Yeah. So that's definitely a no-brainer for him.
Speaking of 12-1, the 4th in points you have Harvick, and his teammate. Well, actually, let's just go with Harvick first, because we don't usually get Harvick with these odds. Normally it's 16-1, sometimes even worse. But so that was the only thing. Was Harvick's 12-1. That number's a little low. He it's not like he's leading laps the last couple of years even, and he's always dangerous to win. But he's still he's 4th in points. He had the crash last year, so you just wipe that out. He only has 1 top 10 in his last 6. But what I liked him is a couple of things. One, again, same thing as we just talked about, no wins. So Kevin has got to be close to getting a win sometime soon. Also, and most importantly, 2nd at Darlington.
Yep.
And let's also throw 5th at New Hampshire.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to point out the 1 top 10 lately was Darlington, that runner-up. So 12-1. It was hard because he usually is 16 to 18 to 20 to 1. 12-1. But you just got to think a win's coming sometime soon for him. And with the second year at a track, you never know. In Gateway too, it's weird because there's not a lot of trends you can go off of because it's only the second year. But one weird thing there, the best win there, no matter what. In IndyCar, the winners, I got it right here. It's a short list. They've been going there since the late 90s. Granted, they had a long gap. They didn't, but they've since gone back. Paul Tracy, Alex Zanardi, Michael Andretti, Juan Montoya, Al Unser Jr., Childa Farron, Elio Castroneves, Will Power, Takuma Sato, Scott Dixon, and Joseph Newgarden. That's it. All at the upper echelon of IndyCar drivers.
Interesting.
You look at the one winner last year at Gateway, Logano. He won the championship last year. It just seems like the guys that are good at Gateway are championship-type caliber drivers. They're the best at their game.
Okay. I'll buy that.
Harvick, we would probably put in that category.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that's a good person to have at 12-1 for that reason. So, yeah, it's the best of the best win there. It's hard to describe, but this isn't a place where fluke guys happen to win. I mean, like I said, that IndyCar list, they're all Hall of Fame type drivers. And with Logano's last year, unless proven otherwise, unless somebody comes out this week and that you're not thinking as a legend in NASCAR wins, I think you still have to say that trend right now until proven otherwise.
Well, who would you take? Because you don't have either driver. So again, let's just say you didn't have Larson, and you could put money on Chastain or Harvick. Who would you put money on?
I'd say Chastain only for the fact that I feel like the flatter tracks like that, Chevrolet just seems to have more speed, just the speed factor.
Well, what about Ford? Because if we look at it, Ford, that's another reason why I went with a few of the Ford drivers. So Ford had 6 of the top 11 this year at Darlington, which is good for Ford. Mm-hmm. And they were 3 of the top 5, including the win at this racetrack last year. So I kind of felt if you're going to take 4 drivers, this is a good week to take them.
Yeah, this is this is one that I think will be a statement for them in a sense, is they've struggled this year in general. I mean, they got 1 win, and as you just said, Darlington are pretty good at. They were good this track last year. What can they do this time around? They've got to be more competitive. So you just never know. Yeah. That's the thing with him. That's why Chastain, points leader, I just feel a little more comfortable his way. Sure. Plus, he doesn't have any payback kind of coming his direction. So, that's why I have a little more trust in him.
Okay. Now, the next 2 teammates, Truex and Bell, both 10-1. Truex was 6th here last year, Bell 9th last year. Now, Bell, I came close to taking, but I just kind of couldn't fit. Of course, he won New Hampshire. That was the kind of reason I was kind of looking at him. I just don't like the way he's driving right now. He's in a little rut, and that kind of just that's what put it over the top for me. But my top pick this week is Truex, and it's not hard to understand why. Even though he had a bad finish at Darlington, he led 145 laps there. He finished 4th last year at New Hampshire, leading 172 laps. 3rd last week, 3rd at Martinsville, wins at Dover, and so those 3 things happened in the last 6 races. This is the best time of this year so far for Truex. And last year, when he finished 6th, he led 42 laps. It was the 2nd most. That's why he was clearly my top choice of the week, and I'm getting 10-1.
Yeah, he's the best play, as you said. I mean, he go to Darlington this year. He led all his laps. He dominated that first stage. Remember, the only reason he didn't finish up front is he got overzealous with Chastain at the end of the second stage. Yeah. He had, one could say he had the best car at Darlington. Loudon he's always good at. Every year he's good at Loudon, leads a bunch of laps. So, yeah, I feel like he's due for another win. You get that feeling. Bell, as you said, I didn't feel great about him. He's good at Loudon. Like you said, won there last year. He was in the top 6 of both Darlington races last year, 9th at this track last year. He was 14th at Darlington this year. Remember, he had top 5 speed. He just got taken out in one of those wrecks at the end. So I do feel good about both those Gibbs drivers. Truex the best.
All right. Reddick at 12-1. I just don't like his results at this track last year and at Darlington or New Hampshire. And there were just so many other, driver possibilities for me to even think about taking Reddick this week.
Yeah, the only thing that I liked about it is this car was 3rd last year. But like you said, I mean, he just seems so up and down right now. I feel like you're getting a better value as a teammate in Bubba down the line than you are at 12-1 with him.
Yeah, the whole thing about is there going to be a time, do you think, that, because I haven't put it into too much stock at this point in the season, but is there going to be a time this season where you're going to just not really worry too much about the switch, the Kyle Busch Reddick switch?
I'd say probably until you start hitting these tracks the second time. Yeah, because right now you're kind of looking at that car. What did it do? And granted, for Reddick, it would be Kurt Busch. Kyle would be what Reddick did in that car. But yeah, you do kind of look at it because it does kind of. We know both are high caliber drivers, and sometimes you just are only as good as your car.
Yeah.
So this one, I feel like the car may carry Reddick, where on road courses it's the other way around, which a road course is coming up next week. So you're better off getting Reddick next week than you are this week, when you're going to get better odds when we go over them here in a minute with the teammates.
Isn't it better or doesn't it make more sense to think that it's the driver at certain tracks that does better at tracks or worse at tracks than if you had to choose between two, the driver or the car?
Yeah, because like examples, road courses, Toyota, it's just been terrible. I mean, we've talked about it here the last 2 years. This car does not suit them, but you look at what he did at COTA, and Denny Hamlin, with what he even said about it, he's like, yeah, look, I own that car. So we see all the data, and he does things in that car.
There you go.
I can't do. He's like, he just puts it in places that I can't put it, and that's where he's extracting the most out of that Toyota car. Where granted, there's times where that car is just so good, or that team is so good at a track, you're just kind of, hey kids, sit and drive this car. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think this is one of those weeks it's going to be the other way around, where the car is probably going to carry the driver. But there's just so, like you said, Truex, Hamlin can be. There's just too many better Toyota guys. I think you can get better options for.
Hamlin 10-1. CJ was the only one to put money on Hamlin. He had the incident last year, and he was fourth at the time after stage one. But yeah, what was the exact thing that happened to his car that put him? Do you remember?
Chastain. Yeah, Chastain got him again.
That was, and what, it did some damage to the car?
Yeah, kind of put him up into the wall and did some damage. And but I just don't get a good read for him.
Neither do I.
He could go out and win. It's just hard. I mean, out of the last 6 races, he's got 3 top 5s, but he's also got 3 finishes outside the top 5 too. I just don't get a good read.
Outside the top 10.
It was tough to pick him this week.
Keselowski is 30-1, 9th in points. Might as well talk about his teammate as well, Buescher, who's 12th in points at 40-1. And I'm taking both of these guys, and so are you. And again, for me, I like the fact that you got the Fords there. I also like the fact that Keselowski was 4th at Darlington, 7th at New Hampshire, and Buescher was 10th at Darlington. And Buescher has 4 top 10s in his last 5 races. So, and what a stage on Monday. So, yeah, why not go with those guys?
Especially with a race we were talking about could be wide open. This is the week to go with them. And they've, like you said, Keselowski's got 3 top 8s in his last 5 points paying races. I'm not counting the All-Star race because that wasn't points paying. Buescher and Zane Smith, remember, filled in for Buescher because he got COVID for this race last year. And in his first Cup race, without any real testing and anything, he went out there and had that thing going well. So I feel both of those are strong plays with where you can get them for odds right now. I wouldn't be shocked if one of them would win this race.
Yeah, this is a good week to do it. As you said, Kyle is 10th in points, Larson 11. We talked about those guys. Buescher 12th. So Stenhouse 13th, Logano 14th. I actually put a buck on Stenhouse. I figured why not 7 top 15s, good fantasy play, by the way. 7 straight top 15s with 3 top 10s, 1 top 5. 13th at Darlington, not too bad. Yeah, do I think he's going to win? More than likely not. But he's at this point in time, you are underrating Ricky Stenhouse when he's 150-1. The way this is not Ricky Stenhouse from the last few seasons.
No, I mean, just look at where you said where he's at in the points. I mean, even the past he would have won.
And that's it.
And he's outside the top 20 right away. He's just that guy that kind of skates by. He's staying there. He's a top 15 driver, and like you said, he's got to win. And not only is he just staying there, he's not in real big danger yet of falling outside if we get the typical, we get 14 winners, like, oh my gosh, is this the year we're going to get 17 regular season winners and one guy is going to be out? He's not even really discussed as being the guy to drop out. He's just been solid. So with that win, you get a late race caution and somebody needs to go. We already know he'll probably in the top 15 go off strategy. He can do it. What do you have to lose? This is a tough track to pass on. So, yeah, for those odds, it wouldn't hurt. I don't think he's going to win an all-out speed, but he can go off strategy. It's going to take somebody up front. Late race caution, I'm taking 2 tires, no tires, something. So, yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah,
going his direction.
You have 5 drivers from 28 to 1 higher. I have 6. So it's a good week to take some of these long shots. Logano is 14th in points at 12 to 1. And like you said, won Darlington last year. Well, let's remember he stole the race late. Really didn't do much until late. And only led 22 laps, which was 6th most. And didn't fare well at Darlington this year. No top 5s, last 5. So, yeah, I just not to win back-to-back.
No, you don't see too many drivers either go into an inaugural race and then win the second year. They don't typically start 2 for 2. Just like I said, Blaney's probably not going to win 2 races in 6 days. I don't see Logano, who's struggled, other than his Atlanta win. He's not really done much. The Atlanta win and Daytona 500 runner-up, that's about all we've got out of him. And those are 2 super speedways. I just don't think he's going to magically show up and win on Sunday. So, again, Stenhouse factor, does he go off strategy late? Other than that, not for the odds you're getting for him right now. You're wiser to go elsewhere.
And Wallace at 28 to 1, the odds are being more respectful as well. They should be. 5th at Darlington, even 3rd at New Hampshire last year. So you got that. You have to take him the way he's going right now at 28 to 1.
You have to. He just feels like he's due for a breakout. And we talked about the Toyota guys and how good they could be. Nashville, I'm not saying this track's comparable to Nashville whatsoever, but the inaugural year in Nashville, Chevrolet dominated. The second year, last year, Toyota dominated. And we talked about these Toyota drivers. He could be a beneficiary of that. So, for the odds you're getting him, he opened at 28 to 1. You've got to go his way. You actually have to.
Now, the rest of them. So, as far as long shots, you put money on Almirola and Jones, and I put money on Cindric and McDowell. So, as far as the rest of them, look, I'll tell you right now. The reason I stayed away from Almirola is I just don't like. I understand why they are what they are. I just can't take Eric Almirola at 40 to 1. I just can't do it. I know it sounds like, well, it's 40 to 1 though, but it's like I just can't do it. I don't know. He's still. I don't know if that 5th was for real or not last year. Maybe it was. Maybe this is a really good track for him. So I understand why you went for him. I just I decided to go elsewhere. And then the Cindric deal. He was pretty strong last year. He's driving a Ford. Logano won last year, and he led 26 laps, which was 5th most last year. He won stage 1. I know he's not going well, but it does seem like even last week, if he doesn't have the late crash, probably finishes in the top 10. So it's just a gamble, and that's what we're doing with these long shots. And McDowell at 500 to 1, well, why not? He led 34 laps at this racetrack last year. I'm not sure he's led 34 laps anywhere in his career.
No. The only reason I avoided him, because, I've looked at that, is a front row car going to seriously win, but for 500 to 1, it's worth it. Almirola, I thought the same. Like 40 is kind of steep for him. I feel like he should be more 60 to 80, but it was 5th. The last race he won. Yeah. Loudon in 2021.
Yeah, good point.
He was good at Loudon.
Yep.
I feel like this is a race he's got to get right. I feel like there's a lot of pressure riding on him. And hey, we all saw the shove between him and Bubba last week. Maybe those two are the top 2 coming to a final restart this week. Would make things interesting. But even at 40 to 1, I thought, you know what?
It's not a bad idea.
Let's start with. Yep. And then Eric Jones. It's hard to pick. 7th at this race last year. He won Darlington, the Southern 500, so that kind of factors in. So for 200 to 1, I'm just gonna. Stranger things have happened.
Again, I took him on the fantasy team, and like you said, the 10th place finish here last year was kind of the beginning of him going for that second half of the season and making things interesting. So
it is, and I couldn't figure out the college thing. Allmendinger 30-1. Granted, he was 10th last year.
Yeah,
he got two top 15 finishes all year.
Where'd that come from?
I struggled with that one. Yeah, 30-1. I feel like they made a mistake.
It's like they thought with this, with some of the odds this week, it was almost like it was a super speedway or something. It's like, what's going on here?
It was. Yeah, it seems like they grouped everybody like 12-1. I feel like they forgot a zero because his teammate is plus 300-1. And if you look at Haley at Darlington the last 2 years, he was 3rd and 8th. He was a top 15. He was 14th last year, so he's not a terrible one to look at. But I just thought it was weird that he's 300-1 and Allmendinger is 30-1. It just didn't make any sense to me. But
I agree.
Yeah, those are the other two that you might.
And Briscoe
got something.
Yeah, look, Briscoe might have been a good pick because he led the first 27 laps until his tire went down last year. He was on the pole, correct? Or was he second?
I think he was second. I think Cindric was on the pole.
But again, what we just talked about, I mean, after everything that happened, how do you take him to win a race this week? So
exactly. Well, let's see. Let me move aside a second. Yes, that's Cindric. I was like, I got the star of the race right behind me. And yeah, Cindric's on. There you go. There's your front row.
Yep. And that's
they've got to be
too,
in
right?
so much compliance. No, that's Cindric.
Oh, Cindric?
Yeah, he was on the pole.
Oh, okay.
There you go. That I feel like with the compliance they need to be in, they can't push that issue. Not this week.
I agree. All right. So
or maybe go the other way. Like they're not going to penalize us 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, right. I don't think you could take that chance. No.
No, because you know your car is probably getting taken back. Or it's getting extra scrutinized in tech this week. So probably not worth the risk.
And I would think that if you get caught doing something again, then a lot of these guys may not be able to be allowed back on the track again. So
no, not worth that risk.
No, it's not. All right. So next week we start getting back into the road courses with Sonoma. And we still have about a month, I believe, until we take a break. When in a 3 weeks?
After
Sonoma.
Next week Sonoma. Then after Father's Day weekend, we'll take a break, and then this is actually the final 2 weeks of Fox Sports' coverage, and then we're on the NBC at the end of this month. The first
Can't
race
be
back.
any worse.
No, you'd hope not. At least they call people out and they call it how they see it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
And again, so your top 3 picks would be Byron.
Say Byron.
Truex.
Byron, Truex, and I'll say Wallace third.
Yes, I like it.
And then I'll say Almirola is my top sleeper just because of what we just talked about.
Not AJ.
Not AJ. Not this
Okay.
week. He's got to get a top 15 before I call him too much of a sleeper.
All right.
Maybe AJ
next week,
but not this.
Yeah. That's right. Next week he'll probably be like 12-1 or something like that. So
probably, and that'll be a long, hard look because I don't even know if I don't know. It's hard not to take him on a road course, but again, he didn't show much in Coda that makes me think that he was going to win. So
well, he might be rethinking full time next year. Things keep going like this, so it's unfortunate. All right. Anyway, we're out of here. We'll be back next week once again for Sonoma. And we'll also, sometime in the next couple of weeks, we are going to kind of take a look back at our preseason predictions. So one of these weeks when we have a little bit more time, we'll do that. Maybe it'll be next week. And looking forward to talking more NASCAR, of course, here on the channel. Don't forget to go to racereviewonline.net. You can check out the description area. That's where the links are that go directly to Eric's website, including all of our information from these picks and our futures and our fantasy teams and all that other stuff. So check that out at racereviewonline.net. We'll talk to you hopefully next Tuesday, Eric.
Yep. Hopefully. We'll see if anything happens this week.